Hello and welcome to my review of The Adventures of Tintin, starring Jamie Bell, Andy Serkis, and Daniel Craig. The Adventures of Tintin centers on a young, intrepid reporter, played by Jamie Bell, who stumbles upon the secret of an ancient pirate ship that was lost to the sea long ago. Through a mad series of adventures, he ends up in a race against a rich man played by Daniel Craig, who wants to find the secret of the ship called the Unicorn before he does, and ends up befriending a ship's captain played by Andy Serkis named Haddock, who may know more about the secret than he lets on. Now, going into this film, I wasn't really familiar with TinTin. I'd never read the French comic that the movie is based on, and my only real interest in this movie is seeing what Spielberg could do with a motion capture animated film. And I was only partially satisfied, to be completely honest. However, this movie does have some excellent things about it, and it's by far the most visually stunning film Spielberg has made in years. The first main positive with this film is the motion capture animation and just the joy and style that went into it in general. First off, the characters look absolutely fantastic. Now, I'm not a fan of motion capture animation per se, because I really am bothered by the uncanny valley thing with the eyes, and it just never seems like it never feels like a fleshed out world. It feels like people wearing costumes made of serial killer's skin. Wow, that's an image. Anyways, but this film, let me tell you, this film is the first motion capture movie, and I'm including Avatar in this, where I really barely felt any sense of uncanny valley and where the film actually fit completely into its own universe. Everything from the locations to the facial expressions to just the movement of the characters felt entirely realistic. But the reason that is not because the movie is photorealistic looking, but because it fits within its own graphic novel, old-style comic book style so well, and it blends so well that you never really notice the pop-ups and the stick-outs because they're just so ingrained into the visual nature of the film. The whole movie is filled with so much life, and it really is a wonderful film to look at. Also, every single action sequence in this film is absolutely breathtaking. Spielberg really does some imaginative things with the camera here because he's not constricted by the format of live action, so he can pretty much do whatever he wants. And you can tell he was really playing around here. He does some great stuff with one-shots and swooping and he really gives you a full perspective for every single one of these action scenes, and he comes up with some really creative parallels and set pieces, and it's just fantastic. Especially a climactic one-shot chase sequence that'll make your jaw drop, and the final battle, which was pretty incredible, and it essentially involves a pirate sword fight, but with construction cranes. And the movie did have a solid sense of adventure that the last Indiana Jones movie even was really, really lacking. So with all this great stuff in it, what was lacking? Why didn't I love this movie? Well, it's all in the characters and the story. This is a very generically told, in terms of story, film. I feel like the main character, especially Tintin, is guilty of this. Now, Jamie Bell did give a decent performance as Tintin, but I just found the character itself to be very bland, very typical, "Oh, I just had a revelation. Oh, let's assess the situation accordingly," kind of person. And he never really had much dimension to his character, and the only person who really, I felt like, wasn't just a stereotype was Captain Haddock, played wonderfully by Andy Serkis. But the story was just a fairly typical, let's race against time to find the secret treasure story. Not really many twists and turns that really made it unique, and the whole movie just felt bland. And despite all this visual energy, I did find myself getting bored at certain parts in this film, and that's why I really can't fully recommend the movie, is because it is a little boring and dry, despite everything great going on in it. Overall, The Adventures of Tintin is one of the most visually and stylistically stunning movies of the year. However, the story and characters just kind of really bring the film down for me. It felt a little bland, it did feel a little boring, and despite all the visual trickery and love going on here, it definitely felt like an empty experience to me. It's still worth seeing, and I do recommend you check it out in the theater, especially if you're a fan of the comics, because it did seem to capture the style it was going for. However, if you're looking for something deeper, I'd recommend seeing another film. With that, I give The Adventures of Tintin 2.5 stars out of 4. I hope you enjoyed this review. If you did, please subscribe to my channel, and until next time, I'm Movie Kid Mike, making sure your time is worth your money.